Welcome to Summoner School. I'm Jonas X. Today we are going to cover AP mid. Well, mid in general. I mean, I play mostly APs. I don't cover many AD mids. I don't find ADs add as much utility to teams. They're usually more assassins, single target removal, which limits your options once mid to late game hits and the teams start forming up and fighting properly. So with that being said, the first thing you really want to focus on is who you're going to be laning with, and there's a couple things to keep in mind. First off, I hate first picking mid. If I can avoid it, I'll even pick another lane first. I find ADC is a fairly safe first pick. Jungle's usually a pretty safe first pick. You don't in Platinum I don't see much in the way of counter picking when I go a tanky jungler, for example. Every once in a while it still will happen. You'll get a Lee Sin or Wukong that'll invade and make your life hell, but it's not as much of a concern compared to when you're in lane and you can't trade really effectively throughout the entirety of, say like a 1 to 6 levels. So the first thing you want to do is pick effectively, and there's kind of 3 different ways I classify the champions. There's short range, mid range, and long range. So short range, for example, would be Swain, Ryze, Annie. Mid range would be, well, Orianna is probably the best example, and then long range would be like Xerath, Vel'Koz, and it's almost the way I bracket them is a mid-range champions very much. It's easier to land abilities when someone's running towards you than it is when you're trying to catch them. Now, that being said, the obviously if you go short-range champion first, like a Ryze or an Annie, and you get Vel'Koz or Xerath that's picked into you, your options for engages are basically flash bind or flash stun, which aren't good spots. You always want to pick a champion that you're going to be able to lane and trade with effectively first and foremost. So if you have to first pick, Orianna's a pretty good choice. She brings a lot of utility to teams with the shield and her ultimates. I mean, she's got AoE. Plus, again, the fact that you're mid-range, you're gonna have to dodge something to get within range of a Xerath or a Vel'Koz, but you can still sort of trade with them, or at least farm the lane effectively at the very least. Like going Swain early, for example, he's really easy to abuse with certain champions. Again, Ryze or Swain Vel'Koz and Xerath are the first and foremost that come to mind. That's who I would pick into those champions. Just make their laning life absolutely miserable. Ward up, avoid the jungler, and keep their lane pushed. And that's usually how I would counter most short-range champions, is pick someone who can push the lane really hard, and you can just sit back and farm effectively and deny them money and experience without really putting yourself at risk ever. Plus, you can drop harassment and make it so they can't really roam and gank so well. Anyway, so I'm going to fire up a game. I played this with Orianna, because I had to first pick. Actually, no, I think I had to trade in this game, and Orianna was my only option. But that's fine. I'm going to try flipping into the video once it loads. I think that's been one of the issues with why it's not coming up in the stream immediately. This isn't ranked, and I didn't want mid. It was just what was left over, and that's usually the only time I end up with mid these days, which is again fine. It's not a role that I mean, I can gain a lot of control in the game with it, but there are a lot of other roles that are usually lacking somewhat. Plus, it's never a good idea to make somebody play something that they're not ideal at. You always want to give someone their strength pick if you have the option. So hopefully the video's loading now and it'll actually show up on... Come on. Alright, well, we will wait. Patience is a virtue, right? Here it comes. It's coming. I promise. It is coming. Is it coming? There it goes. Okay. looks like I gotta get in the video and then
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
it's gotta be loaded into this screen before I try and flip it on the broadcasting software I'm using. So we're just gonna fast forward a bit. I like starting E first on Orianna. Her shield gives you a lot of utility, and the auto attack poke. Between the shield and the auto attack poke is what I was covering before with supporting with her. Even against strong Ziggs would be a champion I'd probably classify as long range too. His bouncing bombs just go for forever. Anyways, that is ultimate with really long range. I lose this early trade to Ziggs to my everlasting shame. I'm just kind of trying to feel him out. I like starting E first, but apparently I started Q. Guess I was trying to be like more standard Oriannas. So right now I'm just waiting for the pot to come back up. He hit level 2 early, so I don't want to get too Q with him. Let the lane push out. Grab farm, as long as I can do it safely without taking damage. And the second I hit level 2, shield up, let him try and do his damage, and try and do as much damage with taking as little as possible. And I didn't really cover the exact specifics of how I did that. That's more something that's going to come with as you're trying to close the gap, trying to land the auto attacks without taking anything. You got to get into habits of, if you're playing a skill shot champion, dodge to the side, for example. If you're fighting someone like Ryze or Annie, you're going to have to take damage sometimes once you close that gap. But again, that's why I'd more opt for a safer champion like Ryze, or a safer champion like Xerath or Vel'Koz to push him out. I'm going to rewind this because this was kind of a cute stage. Ziggs forced me to a decision. So we're both fairly even in health. This isn't a spot where I'm going to be backing off or running from him unless I know their junglers around. And right here, he knocks me forward. I don't know if he meant to do that, because I stepped forward as he moved to engage. But he knocks me forward and plants this his minefield behind me. So that leaves me here. Now, flash range is right about there. I don't want to flash into the minions. I can't flash into the bombs. Like, I want to get away. I don't want to continue this fight. The minion wave is obviously going to hit me first before it's going to hit him, or my minions aren't going to do anything, so I'm going to be taking free damage from that. He did just use all of his skill shots, but I also don't have I don't have Ignite, right? Like, I'm not using any finishing spells. So, you can even see here, there's a point where I have to consider what I'm going to do while I'm auto-attacking him. And I decide to re-engage. I know his bomb's going to be coming back off cooldown soon, or it is off cooldown right now, actually. I don't know why he didn't throw it. So I know I can't stay in this spot. I can't get hit by the bombs. I can't take any more minion hits. I can't really take much of anything. So, since I can't run, I've already made that decision, I try to finish him. I don't know where that bomb bounced. I don't even know if he fired his bouncing bomb. But I repositioned to avoid it, assuming that it was going to be off cooldown. And then, even right at the last second, I remember my thought process was pretty well. And then once it comes down to, after I've flashed, I'll show it one more time. All I'm basically focused on here is waiting on my shield cooldown. What? It's off? No, I guess I'm just slow. I could have sworn that I was actually waiting for the cooldown there, but it was off cooldown. So I'm kind of bad. Is the long and the short of it. No, it was still a cute engage. But I kind of wanted to go over in a little bit of detail. I do wish I was right at the end. So that's how you kind of harass versus Ziggs. I like moving in a lot of perpendicular angles to where he's moving to, or attacking to, and you're going to notice it nets me a lot of free bombs. I almost actually think that he was more used to landing shots on the minions, and not standing in the minions is what saved me from a lot of damage. And that is something your positioning in lane versus the champion that you're fighting is definitely important. Like, Ziggs is not a person you want to be hugging minion waves against. Just the simple fact that he can AoE the minions to do easy damage to you. can even see the second I walked in there, he tried to. He actually should have gone for it. If he had thrown the bomb onto the caster minions, that would have landed. And one thing I focus on with Orianna is not so much getting kills, although I did get that first blood. It's more trading effectively, winning the lane, forcing back the enemy champion. That's I've never the higher I've been getting in ranked, the more this has been paying off. Where going for the kill in lane isn't just trying to trade effectively is really the name of the game. And the more you do it, the more spots you're going to start seeing that will open up. Like, the more you start paying attention to the cooldowns of the champions that you're fighting. Like, for example, when anytime you try to close the gap on Ziggs, and he drops his bomb, but then, or he drops his little satchel charge, and then just jumps away. But then, you know, say for next, at another point, he engages with it. So you know now that he's definitely not going to have that for, what, 16 seconds? Even longer? 20-something? And that's an opportunity you can potentially take advantage of. It's not like you want to jump on it. It's like the same thing as, you know, you land a bind you didn't think was going to, and there's 4 enemies around and you're right there, but their ADC was the one that was bound. I've done that more times than I can count, where I re-engage thinking, okay, well, I landed the skill shot. This is an opportunity. I should try and take advantage of it. Really gotta watch when you go and do that. There's a point coming up here where I totally could have killed Ziggs, and I backed off. It's like I had the Q, I had the auto attack. I'm just too used to playing Orianna as a support, where I level my ball to 5 first, and my Q does nothing for damage. So I guess to cover the basics again, you want someone you can. First, you want to pick the lane effectively, and then you want to farm effectively. You know, you pick an Annie first, and you get a Xerath that picks after you. He's going to be pushing and farming. He's going to be pushing your minions to the turret throughout the entirety of the game whenever you're in lane, assuming your turret doesn't go down at like the 12-minute mark. And you are going to miss farm just because of that. There's no way around it. So first you got to pick the lane effectively. Then you want to farm effectively, so you get the gold, so you can actually be effective throughout mid to late game. Without it, you're not going to be able to burst the champions that you need to, or really be intimidating in any way. So I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm being too base with these explanations, and then I have to remember that I've got all sorts of different viewers, so it's hard to find the right middle ground. Oh, one thing I don't do well is mid, that I've been working on, and you definitely want to work on, and this is more for single target damage champions, although you still want to roam with every mid laner. Roaming's a big part of it. I almost feel like mid is the one lane that really requires all of the lane's knowledge to be well, or to do well at, except, well, you can kind of get away without playing bot lane, but you have to be good at top to be good at mid. Just because you have to be able to duel the champions. Like, you have to be able to trade and fight them effectively. Like, you can get away without doing that as ADC, for example. You really can just sit back and free farm until you've got the damage, and then just right-click people in team fights. Back off when you get too close. I mean, and then so top and then jungling. Just so you've got that habit of constantly staring at the minimap and recognizing when there's an opportunity for a gank, or even when a lane needs a gank. There's a couple points here where bot lane was really pushed a lot. Like, these guys were back and forth at each other's throats, and there were absolutely kill opportunities here. But I developed a lot of bad habits in mid of just fighting the mid laner, farming, and then trying to take the turret. And that is changing. You'll see there's a couple points here that I absolutely never would have left the lane. I would have kept pushing the turret. You know, gotten no damage on it. The jungler would have came and caught the farm. Then I don't end up having any effect the lane. I end up coming and, you know, I roam, and thankfully it's finally starting to happen. And there's also like a curve where when I started playing mid, I did a lot of roaming, but also back then it was I wasn't as good at dueling. I wasn't wasn't that knowledgeable about the enemy champions and what their capabilities were. And it was just easier to walk to other lanes, and I played a lot of Swain right when I started out. Walk to other lanes, drop a bind, throw all my dots on them, and let them die. But as my game's progressed, it's gone back to I went from roaming a lot to winning the lane a lot and farming a lot, and then now I'm trying to hit sort of a middle ground between it. So there's always you always want to work on just try and add like one thing to your game. Each game, like try and always be focusing on trying to improve. Like say I'm just gonna focus on farm this game, and don't do that in ranked. Do that maybe in team builder or in blind. Like literally go play your ADC that you're not too familiar with, or you've been missing with a lot of farm with, and just focus on the farming. Don't focus on laning, trading. Don't focus on throwing skill shots or even dodging. Like just focus on last hitting. Do that for 2 or 3 games, and you'll see a measured improvement afterwards. I promise you will. It's muscle memory. You have to, as long as you're doing it intelligently. Like if you're just walking up and auto attacking the minions, it's not going to work. Farming is a lot of watching what your minions are focusing, landing the timing for the damage that they're doing, and also not auto attack. Like if you're trying to auto attack for health, for example, as an ADC, don't ever attack the minions that your minions are focusing. You always want to go for like the rear caster minions first or something, although that is going to push the lanes, so actually you want to go for the melee minions that aren't being focused. Then the casters. Casters push the lane harder. So this would be another good spot for me to gank as a mid. Lane's pushed. Actually no, it's not. It was just pushed. Ziggs can push this back really quickly. Zach has been making his presence known a little more often. I've been pushed a lot, so I decided to get a ward this time around. I usually try and just sort of safely sit in the middle, and then maybe use my trinket to ward the one bush that I'm worried about. He's been coming to both sides, I think? Anyways. He's been mid enough that I'm concerned about it. And the more comfortable you get fighting a champion, don't be afraid to get a little closer than you may have in the past, and just kind of see how it works out. Because there is like a certain operating range that most people seem to like to stay at, and it's different for everybody. And I find that's more just with the comfort of the champion that you're playing, and the champion you're playing against, obviously. Actually, I almost think he landed more skill shots this game, Ziggs. Or I dodged more based on him missing than my dodging. Here he outtrades me and I just back off. Once I get down to half health, if he's still at full, I gave up. Like, just give up. You relegate yourself to farming safely, or go back and heal. I wasn't sure if I didn't signal for this. She didn't say I could have it. But I decided I needed it, so yeah. I'm not sure where I stand on that. It is kind of a dick move, and it is the jungle's jungle, and it's their buffs and their money. But I've also been having a lot of junglers steal my... I haven't been getting a lot of blues lately. And again, I've been playing most of my games in team builder with silvers, to be fair. Oh, that's one thing I can definitely talk about. One thing that's really hard in this game to gauge is whether or not you're doing something right, just because of all of the different play styles. Obviously the multiple champions, I mean that... no, not the multiple champions. It's mostly the play styles and the different levels of skill. Like, I've been in games with a bunch of platinums, where I've been kind of blown away at how bad they all are, and then I go and play a team builder game with some silvers the next morning, and I mean, it's easier to judge in those spots just because maybe the opponents we were playing were a lot easier, and you know, in the silver game as opposed to the platinum one, the opponents were easier, and my opponents had an easier time, but it's hard to gauge whether or not you're doing something right. Like, you could be getting fed that game because the person you're playing was retarded and their jungle was retarded. You know, they would engage at poor times, or maybe they should have engaged. They were engaging in spots where they shouldn't have at all. So you do really well, and then maybe you play another game and you get the exact same kind of team, and then you do really well again. So you're like, okay, I've definitely got this down. But then you play someone that does know what they're doing, and just sits back and, you know, doesn't let you get that advantage that you've been getting every time. You know, you've been level 2 all inning, and it's been working every time, and all of a sudden you don't get it, and all of a sudden you don't have that 400 gold that you had before. And now you can't do that same amount of nuking damage when you go back and buy the first time, and now you're not getting the kills that you were before. And then, oh, you're okay. Well, you know, obviously I've been doing this, right? It can't be me. Like, it has to be my team. That's the only thing that makes any sense. Like, it's not. The levels of skill in this game vary so fucking wildly. It blows my mind. The diamonds that I've got on my friends list tell me that you're not really gonna hit people that know what they're doing until like top tier of diamond, like diamond 2, diamond 1. And even then, like, you know, you've got to have a certain amount of LP in diamond 2. And then you really start seeing a lot of smart play and people not fucking up all the time. Now, that being said, I also watch LCS games where I'm like, what is that guy doing? And it might be that I'm not understanding certain things, but it also could be I've got the sneaking opinion that LCS players aren't nearly as godlike as we'd all think. Like, I'm tempted. I would really like to see a full challenger team practice for a month. Well, you know, first find 5 challenger players that aren't all douchebags at each other's throats, because I've heard the competition level up there is just sickening, and some of the trolls, like, scary stories. I mean, I imagine once you hit challenger, you don't listen to nobody about fucking nothing. It's like, you know, having five Kobe Bryants. Everyone's trying to be a superstar. Anyways, I'm starting to really rant. Where the hell am I going with all this? So, long story short, the quality of teammates you're getting is going to vary wildly throughout every game, and it's really hard to lock down whether or not you're doing something the right way until you've put in a lot of games and you've experienced a lot of different scenarios, and so how do you avoid that? I still am not sure. I wish that there was a system where you could only play diamond level people all the time, because you would improve. It's like with UFC fighters, where iron sharpens iron. You need strong opponents to improve against. You can't get better playing people in bronze all the time. Like, there's going to be a certain point where everything you're doing is going to be right because everything they're doing is so fucking wrong. And then you're not going to know what the other right things you're going to need to do are because they're not showing them to you. So I guess I could transition this rant into gauging your opponent and whether or not they're better than you. And don't be afraid to admit that they're better than you. I come up against people that are definitely mechanically better than me in lane with their champion, and they can make opportunities that I can't, and I kind of got to relegate myself into a farming scenario. I'm not good at that. I'm a lot better at testing my limits against that guy and trying to see what he's doing right so I can make a little adjustment and maybe learn something from this situation. That's not always the best thing to do in ranked, but also you're not going to improve unless you do it. You won't. You just won't. You'll stagnate hard at whatever level you were playing at previously. So recognize whether or not you're playing someone that's better than you, and then try and learn from the situation if you are. And if you aren't, and you're ranked, use that shit. Make them pay. Show them what they're doing wrong. Show them over and over again. So maybe we'll cover Ori's utility in teamfights and why I like that. Don't fire off ultimates randomly. This is a good spot where I should not have ultied. We weren't even going to get the kill. Well, actually, I might have gotten the kill with that. The slow and my W is the burst from R and W. So I tried to make a play and it totally didn't work out. And it kind of backfires. It's not like we got wiped, but there's a couple spots here where I would have really loved having an ultimate. Like right there would have been beautiful. Guaranteed dead Zac, guaranteed dead. Both walked across the ball, both were in ultimate range. Instead, I kind of got to relegate myself to a shielding, auto-attacking, Q-ball throwing ballerina. Yeah. I'm gonna make another bad decision here. If I had stayed in this lane, I would have had so many more options. I kind of got zoned out by Ziggs and Morgana and this minefield, but I spent the rest of the fight right here. And like I shield Jinx and what's it called? Help her kill what's her nuts, which is great. But if I'd been in this lane the whole time, if I backed off, I would have been safe right in this bush. Shield, auto attack, ball, dead. Ball, dead. Like, would have saved people and saved myself. And I knew that the second it happened. I was trying to find, you could even see him trying to find a good spot to go to. Stupid horn bush. Alright. Let's fast forward a bit.
Purple team double kill.
Team fight. Let's see what happens.
Purple team triple kill.
I initiate some of the ADC. Beautiful. Did anyone help her? If not, but that's okay. Vi's got enough burst damage to deal with around. That would have made that fight look much different. Well, maybe. If she wasn't able to do CRC in a row. That is one thing you definitely need if when it comes to team fight decisions, if as an initiator, first off, literally fucking count that you have 5 and that they have 5. Or if you're starting a 4 on 5, like, it better be because your support is down or something and your ADC is in a perfect position and you're catching one of their bursters. There's very few spots where 4 and 5 is a good initiating scenario. First count, and then you gotta make a decision as to whether or not you can kill their ADC all by yourself when you initiate into an entire team. Because that is kind of what you're going to have to do in solo queue. In teams, you can really get them to focus more, and you know you can literally tell them, "Don't engage this, do engage this, jump on that person." But in solo queue, you got to realize that it's going to be up to you completely if you decide to dive on that person. If you're like when I'm playing Sejuani, I will yell at my top lane to try and follow up on those spots. If I'm landing a money ultimate onto 2 carries, I expect a follow up. I need a follow-up. I can't kill most situations. I can't kill that person alone with Sejuani. Unless I got fed early and I was able to build a haunting guys and then flip it into a Leon. But that's not a spot that I can get into a lot. So yeah, and if you don't have the damage to kill the person in that back lane, the AP or the AD that you managed to jump onto, you might be better off sticking back and peeling for your ADC. Like, you're going to be in one of the 2 spots generally. Either the ADC is doing well, yours is doing well, or yours is doing well. Yeah, one of the 2. And you really got to make a judgment call as to whether or not it's going to be better for their ADC to get removed. Like, if he's fed, that is definitely, if their ADC is fed, that's definitely a spot that you want to be jumping onto as an initiator. Like, the amount of damage that he's going to do is going to, it'll just decimate your team. Like, saving your not fed ADC that's doing half the damage of theirs isn't worth it. Especially if that ADC isn't even able to kill their initiator or their tank, or they're not fighting effectively. Sometimes you gotta make the decision as an initiator to grab the most important target. I'm getting long-winded in this round, so I'm just gonna end it and move on to playing Orianna in mid, which is what this whole fucking video's about. Should probably not sing. It's probably terrible sounding. I'm not a singer. I'd like to, but it's... But who doesn't like to? I think American Idol showed us that. Ho-hum. We're not grouping nearly as well at this point that we should be. Nobody's really even fighting over objectives. We're just kind of pushing up lanes and farming. I would like this bottom lane to join us. Maybe we should go join them. I can't make them... Like, I basically choose to follow the bot lane that's been doing well. And this is a spot we should have backed up on Morgana. Absolutely. I kept thinking we're gonna get her right now. We're gonna get her right now. She's gonna die in a second. We'll get her in a second. This is a good example of how Ori is a mid-range champion, because the ball it just won't get there. Like, I should have picked it up and then thrown it, but it just won't get there. It's just out of range. And then we lose Jinx because of it. Me or Thresh being around to help Jinx there would have... I mean, it doesn't hurt us that badly in this spot. We still get this tower. Lucian doesn't have any more effect after that. Jinx just ends up coming back, running down the lane instead. Don't know what other opportunities it could have turned into. Yeah. I don't think I landed any money else this game. teamfight, sure. Oh, right! The chase from hell. What about this? Let's watch this start. It's almost at the start there. Initiates yet again, beautifully. They definitely got caught out. They just kind of wandered up mid. Renekton's going to, what, farm top? That's no use. I mean, that's a point that I'll pause on right here just to cover really quickly. I see this a lot in ranked, where there are definitely points in the game where you're supposed to be joining your team, you're supposed to be going to lane to farm. And it's dictated by what your team's doing and what their team's doing, obviously. You gotta kind of find the middle ground, and I'm not gonna make any rules as to when it's supposed to happen, but if you're constantly running to lane, or you have to run to the team fight that's already started all the time, you're doing something wrong, I can tell you that. So we'll just move on from there. You should be there for the start of the team fight as often as possible. Ideally, always. There's a fine balance once mid game hits as to when you can farm and when you need to team fight. And again, it's really, I think I basically just said the exact same fucking thing, but it really is hard to find that balance. And my recommendation in solo queue would definitely be opt towards team fighting far more than farming. Like once your tower goes down, that's basically the end of your free farming. I'm going to sit in lane and get money stage. I'll just die here. No, this isn't the chase from hell. There's one point here where I run from the team for like the entirety of the map. And then end up turning around. I think it's right after that fight. Yeah, there it is. And back up. So we're going for their Nexus. We get the 2 turrets. Entire team dies, I have to run. From a lot of shit. I wanted to Q onto Zek, but he's so close. Like, he's so close, and I know that another slingshot's coming out. That I can't really afford to throw it at him and then W. Like, I need the speed for myself and then him to walk over for the speed up on me and the slow on him. And then from here it's just cooldowns. Please, cooldown, save me. The last bomb. The last hit they could have gotten. And once you get low like that, your priority is staying away from the enemy team. And I think this is a great example on how well you can do that if you're paying attention and still be effective in the fight. You don't always have to go back when you're that low. I wouldn't do this with, say, Sejuani, because I can't affect the team. But as Orianna, I don't have to be in the fight to be in the fight. I can still be a giant pain in the balls with 200 health. As long as I position smart. Crocodile wants to kill me. Crocodile wants to kill me. Tries to run. I say no. No, Crocodile. And you, at low health like this, you are such a giant walking piece of meat. For these rabid dogs in gold and silver, like, they want kills so bad. So badly. Like, it's by far and large the biggest motivator to do anything for any player. For like the entirety of bronze to mid-gold. All they want to do is get kills and pad their score. And I don't give a fuck about kills. I don't think you should either. Just try and get them when you can. Always try and find the opportunity to get a kill. But don't care about getting them. You want to get the farm, you want to get the towers, you want to help your team. Anyways. So, I think that's a good place to end. Nexus goes down. Yay, we win. I think I covered a couple good points. That screen being black worries me. Okay, no, it's good. ET is good. Alright. Hope you guys learned something. Thanks for watching around to the end. And until next time, take it easy, guys.